Welcome to the Scoop World Order. Hope you guys are having a great Friday. Happy Scoop Day. Winter has came. We told you winter was coming, and we're here now, baby. So this is the best day of the year for us. So we're excited. Football is rolling along. Big five-star flip coming. That's the projection that we're looking at. It could happen pretty quick here. An event when you lose a kid like DeCorey Moore is it opens up a little bit more cap space, a little bit more budget to go hard after some guys, and a big defensive tackle flipping would be a wonderful feather in the cap of Larry Johnson. So we're going to break that down. We're going to take your super chats. As always, if you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Subscribe to our Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Our audio side is really growing quickly, and we really appreciate you guys for leaving those great reviews, those 5-star reviews. Number one Ohio State podcast by a country mile. The ratings don't lie. It's not even close at this point, so we appreciate you guys tuning in, kicking it with us. Again, the Scoop family is real. It's a tidal wave of momentum. We go almost every day, take a couple days off, here and there just to kind of let the batteries refresh a little bit. But we love you guys. We appreciate you guys each and every night kicking it with us. And you guys that tune in after the show's over throughout your day. Thank you guys for making us a big part of your day. This will be a huge show because you guys make it one. So thank you for that. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to have you guys as always. Going to get into this right now with my good friend Nevadabuck. Nevada, 5-star flip. We've been talking about our boy Malik Autry for a hot minute. I am really excited about this kid. I'm going to get his film dialed up. What are your thoughts on it? Because I think it's going to be an absolutely wonderful flip for Larry Johnson if he can get that done.
Yeah, it's funny. Malik Autry's been kind of the most interesting recruitment of this whole cycle in that he was a guy that's been kind of the standard bearer for Auburn football for a long time. And, so much so that he's been a big advocate for Auburn. He's talked to other kids about going to Auburn. And, when he came on his visit, he was actually talking to the kids about how excited he was about going to Auburn. And a lot of those commitments took it almost like he was selling them to follow him and kind of go that way. And since that visit, his tune's been kind of changing slowly but surely. And now he's starting to give all sorts of buying signals to Ohio State. He's been giving buying signals to Ohio State privately in terms of talking about class selection, firming up an NIL commitment. Talking Larry Johnson more and more into Jim Knowles about where he fits in on the depth chart, where he'd go for playing time. But now publicly, he started to change his Instagram photos to all Ohio State stuff and following Ohio State players, and so it's getting real now. This is either a gigantic troll job, or he's really about to flip. And from talking to people at Ohio State, they think that he's genuine. They think that nobody goes to this kind of occasionally guys will do it if they'll wear gloves or wear a shirt or wear cleats or whatever it is. But the amount of time that he's spending privately on this really is kind of giving them the impression that he's sincere, that he's coming, and that this is just kind of a natural evolution of things where he could very well flip to the Buckeyes, and that could happen sooner than later. And Ohio State's getting kind of excited about it, and I am as well, because I really had put this under the category of just not happening. And with NIL, as you said, when one door closes, another opens. When DeCorey Moore kind of spurned the Buckeyes, went to Oregon, it freed up some money. There's been a number of people, of the position coaches that have been kind of vying for that. And it's almost like kind of a salary cap situation where it's first come, first serve. And Malik Autry may be the guy that steps up and grabs the bag. And Larry Johnson would be the benefactor, and so would we. But this is one to definitely keep an eye on. He's on commitment watch. He's on flip watch. And this could happen sooner than later.
Yeah, and I love kids like this, and this is a big reason why I frankly love NIL, because this is a kid that would have gotten the bag back in the olden days of Auburn recruiting, where they would funnel money through churches and casinos and any other measure to get these kids. Now we can go after this kid, which is going to be, I think, just excellent for Ohio State. This is a kid, 330 pounds, 6'5". These are the kind of kids that there's only so many of these guys in the country that can move and are twitched up like this kid is. And when you get one, I mean, they're usually here for 3 years and they're off to the NFL. Digging his film up real quick for you guys. But I love his tape. Again, we've watched his tape a bunch. This is and shout out to the people that do this film because these guys have excellent high angles. So this is great for studying offensive and defensive line play when you get these high shots. But the kid's he's so explosive, he's so twitchy, just fun to watch. Like again, I love watching this kid's film, how he can close on a quarterback. They show him playing those. Now, obviously, it's really easy to make a play when nobody blocks you, like on that play. But just the speed, the movement, splitting a double team. I love this one because this is one where he takes an angle and runs to the ball. Which again, not every. Again, this might be. This isn't a play where you're like, well, Kirk, they just gained, however many yards. They're running a. This is why when you talk about Kirk, why do you like running the quarterback? Well, because this is a read option where, like, look at this scheme. And imagine being one of these linebackers, and you've got double tight end coming this way, and you've got zone this way. You've got him blocking out. You're reading this guy, and so when he gets caught up in the mesh, you give it. But I mean, the quarterback could keep this just as easy. If the quarterback keeps this guy's out of it. This guy's out of it, and this is why I love the quarterback running game. If you go delete this guy out of the photo, there's nobody home. I mean, this is the guy that's going to make the play, but I mean, if you just read him and he just goes there and he goes up to here, this is why, again, this isn't something that we've done. But this is something like with Chip Kelly and Will Howard. This is stuff I love because it's so hard to defend when you're this guy and this guy. I mean, you've got a lot of stuff going on here. You got to read, a pull, and then, this is a great run. If this guy can get this one a little bit better and get him out of the photo, this is gone. But the guy that makes the play is our guy Malik. And again, this is a play that, when you're studying tape and you're watching these guys, this is something this is on the highlight tape because of the effort, the pursuit angle. Again, it's a gainer, but I mean, look at his effort down the field for being 330 pounds to get the angle and get that kid on the ground. Now, again, it was a gain, but that's the kind of effort that you want your down guys to play with. And I swear to God, not many of the defensive linemen that I've seen play and run to the ball like that. So again, that's something that's contagious. That's something that Urban Meyer would point out in a film session. Watch our 330-pound guy run and get this guy at an angle. And that's something that NFL scouts love, GMs love, because I think this stuff's contagious. Now, I don't know who would be a good comp for this guy because 330. We just haven't had a lot of 330s. I mean, Tyleek, I think, is a decent comp to this kid. This kid is maybe a little twitchier than Tyleek, but we just don't have many guys that are that big, that are that twitchy. I mean, we've had big slogs that are, kind of, occupiers, but when you get a 330 twitched up guy, those guys get paid a lot of money in the National Football League. Who would you compare him to? Because, to me, the laziest one would be Tyleek, just because he's so current. But these guys are tough to go against. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to come up with a list of guys that have been Ohio State players to compare him to for sure, because we've talked about this many times. They seem to grow these guys primarily down in the South, and it's harder to get them up there. And because I'm trying to think about who we've got. I mean, Jonathan Hankins, maybe. Is that a decent comp?
I mean, that's a good comp. I think he's twitchier than Hank. And I love Jonathan Hankins. He's on year 10 in the NFL. But I think this guy's more athletic than Hank. Now, Hank was a pure nose guard, and he was a great nose guard. And like I said, I think he's with the Seattle Seahawks now. Played with Dallas a little bit last year, but he's been in the league for about 10 years now. So that's a good comparison from a body count. But I think this guy's quicker. I think he's twitchier. And I love the length. I love the 6'5", 6'5" long arms with that mass. That is really hard to go against. I'm just telling you, pass protection. Well, guys have really long arms in the interior. Most of your guards aren't super long arm guys, so that's always a big time issue in pass protection. When you're trying to go against a guy like this. I mean, a guy with this kind of length and this height in the middle is these are the really good guys that Georgia had a few years ago. He's not nearly as big as 88, the kid that went to the Eagles, who's been a total bust for the Eagles so far, but he's that kind of Jordan Davis. He's not as heavy as Jordan Davis, obviously. But those taller guys are really hard to go against. But I like the Hankins thing, but he's just not anywhere near as big as that. But yeah, I really like. I like this guy's film. Like we've watched it a few times, but he'd be a scary dude to get in the middle. Like I would take him over DeCorian Moore, some of these receivers, some of these guys that we haven't landed, just because I think that we got to get more guys like this. And this is a reason why, again, I love NIL, because it makes us competitive on a player like this. Like we wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been possible pre NIL to get a kid like this to Ohio State, which is great. What else about it? I mean, this is kind of the last final couple of weeks before camp. I mean, we're almost mid-July, which is crazy. They report around August 5th or so. What are you most looking forward to? I mean, the video game comes out on Monday. Everyone's excited about it just because it's kind of funny. You get to see kind of the pseudo simulation of what Ohio State will look like. And I think everybody's excited just to get ready to go for college football. But what are you most excited about? I mean, the coaches are on vacation. The players are in the middle of the grind, summer conditioning. I got a great report from LaCharles Bentley on Carson Hinsman. Carson Hinsman did some really good work up at he had a center symposium, like a center camp. I'll get into that, but what are some of the things you're excited about right now before I get into my LaCharles stuff?
Well, Charles Bentley, I mean, man, he should be working with the Ohio State guys. That'd be awesome if he was doing. That'd be fantastic. I mean, who's better than LaCharles in terms of coaching them up and doing that? I mean that guy. I mean, he's terrific. What a great player. What a great technician. A guy that really understands the game. Could really add a lot to Ohio State. But you know, that's just a crazy idea for another day. But no, I think look, I'm excited about how this class is going to end. Before we get into the season, I'm excited about how is this class going to finish? Like, obviously we've talked about David Sanders, but do they add McFadden? Is there another interior offensive lineman? Do they add another wide receiver? Do they add another defensive back? Well, how does the class finish up? Because as much as I try not to be a recruit Nick and try not to get caught up in recruiting rankings, it would be cool just one time in my lifetime in the modern era for Ohio State to finish number one. Then I have the number one recruiting class. I think that would just be fun. And David Sanders is going to be committing here in the next 30 days or whatever it is, and so we all get to kind of line up and jump up and down on that one and be excited and either we'll be toasting Justin Fry's successes and saying what a great job he's been doing, or we'll be lining it up to give him the Parker Fleming treatment and try to run him out of town. But that'll be fun. But no, with the team, I just want to see the team together. I mean, everybody's in on it. Like Greg McElroy, Joel Klatt, every handicapper in Vegas. I mean, everybody knows that this is the year. This is the team. This Ohio State team is pretty insane. And as a fan, to go into a season like this where you've got a team that's so overpowered that people are talking about on paper them being one of the great teams in college football, in modern college football history. I mean, just from a rating standpoint, from a power ranking standpoint, we just really have very few weaknesses. When your weaknesses are your all Big Ten right tackle and your fifth year 39 start quarterback, you know what I'm saying, like that. And those are the weak spots on the team. We're kind of in the rare air right now. So I'm just excited to see everybody kind of get into the field. I want to see that Sonny Styles, CJ Hicks battle and, see who's going to kind of get out there. But most of all, I just want to see them line up and play some football. I think, what are we, like 6 Saturdays away from you kicking it off for real?
Yeah. I think it's 50 days.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. And, 3 weeks or whatever it is from fall camp opening up. So yeah, it's down. We're down to the net cutting time now. But I'm like I've been saying all off season about how excited I am, but now it's getting real. And I really can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and Charles is the guy. So this is he did this center summit. He started. There's all these kind of newfound deals that have popped up over the last 4 years. There's a tight end summit in Nashville that Travis Kelce does with Olsen and those guys. There's a pass rush summit, which is out in Vegas that Von Miller does with Max Crosby. There's an O-line summit that Duke Manyware that does, and LaCharles is on the center summit. And, honestly, like if I was one of the offensive linemen for Ohio State, I would have gone to this if I played tackle, guard, tight end, like anything, just to learn the mechanics. Because LaCharles is a literal guy. He's a literal genius. He's a guy who literally has dedicated his life to figuring out how to make things better for the offensive line in terms of mechanics, motion, training, nutrition. I mean, he's a beast. And so here you see Carson Hinsman. He's demonstrating, with the kid in the backwards hat. And again, this is something that I think that McLaughlin should have been at the center. I think that Fryer should have been at it. Those guys all should have been at this thing because this is a really good deal. I mean, there were kids from the University of Georgia, kids from Bama, kids from all over the country flew in for this thing. And this was a 2-hour ride. It was up in Canton. Yeah, I think, something that if I ran the program, if I ran Ohio State, something that I would do that I think would be really additive is in the summer, you do your strength training with Mickey Marotti, you do your conditioning with Mickey Marotti. I would hire specialist coaches that can coach, find, there's these times where these guys are allowed to coach, or I mean, I would make LaCharles like some sort of a volunteer weight room coach or something, because now they have unlimited coaches. So you could hire LaCharles as some sort of a, retainer. I mean, he doesn't need the money. He's a multi-millionaire from his NFL deals, from his equipment, from his training facility. I mean, he's a really sharp business dude. So he doesn't need the money. But I would hire a guy like LaCharles to come in and work with these guys and develop their skills, especially the old guys, the young guys, all the guys. The thing that he's excellent about is diet. I'm telling you, like I've seen what he's done to guys. You guys probably don't know, Larry Warford was a guy that went to Kentucky, became a multiple-time Pro Bowler in the NFL, signed a huge deal. Bobby Massey signed a huge deal. These were guys that trained with him back when he was first getting started. He changed Alex Boone's life. Like, Alex Boone was a guy that was, kind of on the fringe of making it in the league. He started working out with LaCharles. LaCharles turned him into a multimillionaire, turned him into a guard, a 6'8" guard, which again, when people are stupid and the Ohio State media has never been worse or dumber or less informed. I mean, it's terrible the level of coverage you guys get now. Like when they talk about like starting like, oh, we're playing 4 tackles and we're not playing guards. I'm like, well, Alex Boone was a 6'8" tackle who never played guard in his life. And he moved into guard and became a Pro Bowl alternate and signed a huge deal with the Minnesota Vikings and played 10 years in the league. And I don't know how many starts he had, but 95% of them were at guard. And he was 6'8". He was the tallest guy on every team he's probably ever on. So, when people say, oh, you can't play guard because you're too tall, like, well, if you get your angles right and you get your body right, like LaCharles, worked with him nonstop to make him to a really good pass blocking guard, good run blocking guard, got his stance right, did everything. And he did the same thing with Taylor Decker, with Elfline. Brewster trained with him. Like a lot of these guys, Taylor Decker bought a mansion in Arizona literally to train with LaCharles, like, the entire offseason. Like, I mean, he lives out there in the offseason just because it's right next to LaCharles' facility. So, again, the proof's in the pudding. And I used to tell kids, I'm like, look, I would go train with him and do everything he tells you to do. If you do that, there's no way you won't make it in the league. You won't be, a zillionaire because he knows what he's talking about as he's doing. He's got Will Conroy at Ignatius. He's back in Cleveland now, which is great because his kids want to go to Ignatius like he did, like the old man did, which makes complete sense. So he actually has a facility now that's incredible. That's in Cleveland, which again, if I'm an active Ohio State lineman, I'm going up there every weekend and getting at least a 2-a-day in on a Saturday instead of sitting by the pool drinking beer or golfing or whatever else you could be doing. Because I can't imagine there's anything in the universe that would be more helpful than getting some work in with LaCharles. But again, if I ran the program, I'd hire him as a consultant. I mean, there's teams. I mean, Oregon's going to do that. Arizona State's going to do that. There's some really big schools that are getting ready to do that. But I know that he's a Buckeye. I mean, he's a diehard Buckeye. He's got a tree in the grove. He's got a Remington trophy in the hallway. But I love what he's done. And again, like, don't take my word for it just because he's like a brother to me. I mean, ask Taylor Decker. Go ask Pat Elfline. Go ask those guys what they think of LaCharles. And they'd be like, yeah, he's he's that dude. Bobby Massey, Larry Warford. He's got a laundry list of guys that he's put into the league, put into the Pro Bowl. The guys have gotten humongous second contracts. The stuff he did with Taylor Decker's stance and his pass protection was revolutionary. I mean, it made Taylor into a much better. I mean, he was a very, very good player at Ohio State, All-American. But I mean, he became, a $70 million left tackle for the Lions because of LaCharles. And because obviously Taylor put in a ton of work, but, LaCharles is the mentor. And you need, when you're in the league, man, you need a guy that can break your film down, break you down, break your diet down, do the whole 9 yards. And so, again, this is a guy, I can't imagine a person who's devoted more of his life to one skill group at one position group than LaCharles has the offensive line. So he's right up the street. I mean, I'm telling you, he's made more O-line training devices and more workout plans and diet plans, and he's just good at what he does. So Nevada, any thoughts on that? Because again, I'm a big LaCharles guy, man. I think he'd do a great job if he could help some of these guys out.
Well, would LaCharles work with Michigan? Would he, I know he's Bobby Buckeye. Would he work with Michigan?
I mean, if they call. I mean, if Michigan calls, I mean, Sherrod Moore, and again, Michigan's line has dominated our D line the last 3 years. So, if they're calling, then I'd probably listen to what they're doing. This is my opinion. I mean, go watch how Michigan's O-line's played us the last 3 years. I mean, even if they've got our calls, like, those guys still come off the rock hard. And they ran for 300 yards in their last game they played. So, but LeChuck, like I said, he's got, he loved Carson. I mean, he really had glowing things to say about Carson Hinsman. Again, Carson was there working. Again, you got a Georgia Bulldog in the photo. You got kids from IMG. Caden Strayhorn, who just committed to Michigan, was there. There's kids from Tennessee. There's kids from literally all over the country. Kids from the SEC flew into Canton to go to this thing. So it was a big deal. But he really liked what he saw from Carson. He said Carson's got a lot of stuff to him. He's got a lot of, he's gotten a lot better since the season finished. But there's the Georgia Bulldog, a Michigan Wolverine. I mean, this was open to anybody. And again, I think it would be cool. And these kids, like, the quicker that some of these guys can get in the mix and get the diet cleaned up and get some of the technical stuff cleaned up, I think the better off they're going to be. Just because, like, we'll go as far as our line takes us this year. And our line is very talented. Like, there's no question about the talent of our offensive line. People want to say we don't have 5 stars or whatever. It's like, dude, like, Josh Simmons is as talented as any 5-star tackle in the country. He is. Now, if he wants to play like it, and it's up to him if he wants to play like, like a first-round pick, because he could be if he puts his mind to it. I mean, he's got the ability. Again, I watch his tape, and I'm just like, that guy can float. He's got great feet, super athletic. He can be questionable at times, but he's got all the ability in the world. Left guard, Donnie Jackson's the most talented left guard in the country. I think he should be more of a butt kicker than he is, but that's just me. For a guy who's that big and strong and explosive, like, I think he should be much better than he is. But he's still preseason All-American, preseason All-Big Ten. It was All-Big Ten last year. But I think he's got another gear where he should be a guy that should be a first-round guard because he's that talented. Like, not every guard is like a super talented guy, but Donnie's that talented. But he's got to turn up another notch or two. McLaughlin, again, good player, tough player. Carson, super young. He's only redshirt sophomore. Carson still has 3 years of eligibility left, which is insane. But, so Carson's got a bright future here, despite what people want to say. Like, I think he's got a huge future. And then Josh Fryer was All Big Ten last year. So, I mean, I think this line's got a lot to improve. I mean, even like if I was a tight end, I would have gone to this. If I was G. Scott, I would have gone to this. If Jelani Thurman, I'd have gone to this. Because even if it's centers, and okay, well, I'm not a center, but you need to learn positioning for blocking, leverage for blocking, hand placement, stance. Because, center is obviously different from tight end. I'm not trying to like snow you guys over, but there's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of things that you guys could learn. Like if I was a tackle, I'd have gone to this. I mean, even though I've never snapped the ball before, the thing is when you go to the National Football League, everybody, unless you're a stone cold lock first round left tackle, everybody plays everywhere. Like when I was in the NFL, like I'd never played guard, center. But I started snapping when I got to the NFL because you got to, when you're a backup, dude, you got to play everywhere. You don't just say, oh, I'm only a right tackle, I'm only a left tackle. Like, you got to play both sides. And that's something that, looking back, if I was smarter when I was playing, I would have been more ambidextrous. I would have been more left side centric. I was so right side centric. I would have worked a lot more on my left-handed stance and left-handed guard and all that stuff, because I never did it. So all I put is right tackle in my career. And that's why I think that, when you come to something like this, it never hurts if you're a guy like Josh Fryer or Donnie Jackson, guys a left guard or right tackle, to learn how to snap. Like, you should learn how to snap, because if you're a guy's going to be a mid or late round pick, you got to know how to snap. I mean, you add so much value to yourself, and it's not really that hard to do. And if you can play center in a pinch, your value absolutely skyrockets in the NFL. Any thoughts on that, Nevada? Because again, I know I get a little passionate about that, but we've got 3 line coaches now. So, Tim Drevno is the guy that was on the bread line, and we brought him in, was at UCLA, coaching a Super Bowl. He's coached some really good lines. Obviously, Justin Fry, that's a big year for him. And you've got the GA. But I mean, in your opinion, because you've owned teams, you've been around a lot of organizations, is there a point where there's too many cooks in the kitchen, or it could be, something that'd be detrimental if you have too many opinions or technique things? Because, there could be sometimes, if you got like kids that are kind of weak-minded. Like, there was a point where I had Jim Bowman as my line coach. I had Jeff Ulenake as a strength coach, who was an O-line guy who had been an O-line coach at Cincinnati with D'Antonio. And then I had, an O-line graduate assistant who they all had kind of different ideas on how we should do stuff. And Jim Lachey, who was one of the greatest linemen in NFL history, was our color commentator. And those guys all had different ideas on how we should do stuff. And so, I would always say, okay, well, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do how the line coach says. But is there a point where there's too many cooks in the kitchen? Because that is one thing I worry about with the, I guess, enhancement of infinite coaches now. Is there a point where it's too much, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, that's kind of, I was going to put that question to you, because I would think that'd be the only reason why Ohio State wouldn't be seeking out, another voice or another set of inputs, is because, at what point is it counterproductive? And, to use a real world example, and you know the story, but, I have a daughter who plays hockey, and, she was going out for the national team and went to the tryout, and they're trying to get her to play more upright, and she's a deep croucher. And, when you have too many voices in your head trying to do it, it can be confusing. And I think for offensive linemen, I mean, it's so much technique, and I'm sure that LaCharles says things that are probably different than what Tim Drevno says, which are different than what Justin Fry says. And I'm sure they're concerned about having, a situation where, he's telling them one thing and they may want to do another. And I guess the ultimate question comes down to, does Justin Fry know what he's doing? Is Justin Fry technically a sound, teacher? Are we getting the kind of product, that we want? And, I'm not sophisticated enough to know the answer to that. You are probably much better in a position to say that. LaCharles would be in a much better position to say that. And I'm sure we probably want to reserve a little bit of that comment until we see him how he operates this year in the Chip Kelly offense. But I think for Ohio State right now, when you've got a resource like LaCharles and you're not utilizing it, you must feel like, hey, we just don't want to have too many voices in these guys' heads, because that is a thing. That's a thing in business. That's a thing in sports. That's a thing in school. You need to kind of speak with one voice, and it needs to be kind of the same, because otherwise people get mixed messages, and that is confusing. And that to me, that's the only reason I would think why Ohio State isn't jumping all over, some sort of an alignment with LaCharles Bentley, because it seems too perfect to me.
Yeah, I think that's that's a big thing to me, is when you look at it, like everyone has to speak the same language, and when you're the line coach, when you're Justin Fry, if you're in his shoes, or you're Brian Hartline, like if you bring in a slot wide receivers coach or a tight end or a tackles coach or just an adjunct guy, it can be threatening, I guess, if maybe the players they try doing it a different way and they like it better, they have more success. Because there's a lot of things in life, in sports where it's there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. Like you talked about, your daughter being a goaltender. Like Dominic Hasek is completely different from Patrick Wall, and I'm sure that somewhere along the line there was some goalie coach in the NHL that was like, Dominic, you have to be a butterfly goalie and you have to be upright and you have to angle like this and you can't flop around and do snow angels and do it. I mean, but thank God, like nobody really screwed him up too bad because he's probably the best goalie that's ever lived. And he has the most unorthodox style in the history of the NHL for goaltenders. So, I've dealt with kids that are, baseball players and, a coach gets in and tries to, monkey around with the mechanics of his swing or change his foot or his stance or his elbow or whatever. And I think sometimes you paralyze these kids when you've got too many things going through their head. Like when I went to the NFL and I went to the Chicago Bears, like Harry Hiestand, who's a fantastic line coach, totally changed my stance. And it was severely uncomfortable to be in. And I hated it because I used to be in like a very comfortable stance where I'd be a little bit higher. Because again, when you start really low to the ground in your stance, and you're all crouched down, the first move that you have to make is you have to rise up. So I would always, the thing that Jim Bowman says, like, I want you guys to be higher in your stance. I want your butt to be higher in your 3-point stance because then you're already up, like mechanically. You're not down in a little crouch. Like he wanted, like here he said, I wanted all 5 of my fingers on the ground and all of my feet screwed into the ground and didn't want my ankle up in the air. And it was terrible. But, when he's your line coach, like you got to do whatever he says. So if he's trying to change it and change the way you run block and change your stance and change everything, like that's what you got to do. Yeah, it's always interesting. I love skill development and I love learning better ways to do things because I just think that, there's a lot of, it's a big lab. Like offensive line is such a different position because everyone has a different body type. There's some guys that have longer legs, longer arms, more flexible, less flexible, heavier, lighter, whatever. So you can't just say, well, this is the one stance that everyone's going to be in because I said so. No, you got to find what works mechanically for each guy. Now you can't have it be something super wacky, but that's what fascinates me about this new coaching deal. So I think that, there's going to be teams that hire specialists, and I think some of it will work out great. I think some of it will end up horrendous. Because I would hire a pass rush specialist tomorrow. Excuse me, like Warren Sapp's working with Colorado now. I mean, that guy's going to teach his 3 techniques how to pass rush probably as good as anybody that's ever lived. But guys that could give you some good technical stuff that maybe don't want to be full-time coaches. Maybe they just want to do some skill development and skill training. Because we used to have when I was in Detroit, we had like a boxing class where a boxer would come in and teach us, some cardio stuff and how to use our hands. And we had a guy, God rest his soul, named Tunch Elkin, who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who it was funny when I played at Ohio State, Jim Bowman had Tunch Elkin's tape and we would watch it and we would hit the mitts so that we could learn independent hands. And Harry Hiestand actually hired Tunch to come out to Chicago twice. So in the middle of our month off, we had to fly. I flew out to Chicago for a 1-day seminar with Tunch where we'd go out and hit the mitts and learn about independent hand usage and stuff. And it honestly was great. I mean, it was like an 8-hour day. We basically did like a 2-a-day. We'd go out there for 2.5 hours, basically practice with Tunch, come in, watch some film, eat a little lunch, then go back out in the afternoon and do it again. And like when I got to training camp that year, my rookie year, like I was as good as I'd ever been in pass protection because my hands were so good. And his big thing in the one-on-one pass pro drill was, I don't care if you win or lose the drill, but you have to throw your hands. And I was like, okay, that makes it easy. Like if you don't care if we win or lose because it's just kind of a skill development drill, then it's okay. So I would go back there, and I would just crush guys with my hands. I would throw my hands. I'd always aim at their heads because, when they're pass rushing and they're low, if you aim at their heads and you throw your hands, a lot of times when you aim at the head, sometimes you'll get them in the head, but a lot of times you'll get them right in the chest, which is like perfect. So you want to aim a little bit higher. But it was so good. That's why I believe in hiring some outside people to come in and do something. Like if I was Ryan Day, I'd just have LaCharles come in and do like a 2-day summer camp at Ohio State and have all my linemen out there and just go through some different drills. And again, if I'm Justin Fry and I'm Tim Drebno, I want to learn some stuff too, because, the thing about line is there's always better ways to do things, new ways to do things, more, contemporary ways to do things. And like LaCharles would come out and probably take some guys through some stuff and identify some body mechanics. The thing that LaCharles has that's a great luxury is he doesn't have to game plan and he doesn't have to recruit. So he's pure offensive line skill development, which is what most line coaches probably wish they could do, but they have to go call 17-year-old kids and beg them to come play, and they have to go visit them at their stupid high school scrimmages and go watch them play basketball, and then they got to go game plan to beat Oregon and fly to the Oregon game. But Charles is just pure skill development, and I would look for some of these guys. I'd bring them in because I think that it freshens stuff up sometimes when you bring in a guy like that. And like I said, I lived it when I was in the NFL, and Tunch Elkin came in, God rest his soul. He was a Pittsburgh Steeler legend. He was an undersized tackle, and he had film where he was blocking Reggie White. Reggie White looked like he was 100 pounds heavier than Tunch was, and his hands were so good that Reggie would do his club move, and Tunch would catch him and just slap. He did these like hand things where like Reggie basically fall right on his face because he'd try to, one arm bull rush you, and Tunch was just really, really good. We got a super chat, Nevada. Any other questions?
No, I think I think the LaCharles thing is going to be, it's going to be interesting to see if they engage LaCharles, because I know he wants to have some engagement back with Ohio State. It'll be interesting to see if they take him up on it. It'll be interesting to see kind of how Justin Fry plays that, how confident Justin is in his teaching or how confident he is in his room. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye on that one.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's going to be interesting to see if they use him because, at the end of the day, I would do as much as I could with LaCharles because he's played in the league. He was the highest paid center in NFL history. He had that horrific accident, in the first minicamp. He blows his knee out, gets a staph infection, almost dies from it. Then, loses the weight, literally becomes, the foremost authority in offensive line coaching, teaching, skill development. And he lives in Cleveland now. Like that's the biggest thing that's changed in the last 2 years is like he lives in Cleveland. He has an incredible gym in Cleveland now. Like now he's not in Arizona anymore. So he's literally 2 hours down 71. So I think it would be fascinating to see because he's a monster. And I'll tell you what, he would be an impossibly good recruiter too. Cause I'm telling you, the guy is an Ignatius guy. Looks like he's made out of, stone. He's so, ripped and chiseled, but he's just a razor sharp dude. Every time I talk to him, I'm like, I always learn a ton of nuanced offensive line stuff every time we talk. Cause that's all we really talk about. Cause we're just nerds like that. All right. I got a super chat. Here we go, Nevada. Oh God, not the raffle. John A, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. Bigger scandal, Michigan cheating or Jim Tressel rigging a raffle? I still think that SI story is such a joke. Just hoping something breaks by August. Nevada OH. Nevada, what's a bigger scandal? Jim Tressel rigging an auction so that a good player would win the prize that could potentially come to your school, or Michigan cheating?
Yeah, the Sports Illustrated article will definitely live in infamy of, because remember the hype on that thing? That was like, that was going to be the end of days, and what a steaming pile of garbage that was. No, I think the Michigan things kind of got them. There was some speculation on a Michigan board today, which I found completely hysterical, where they were like, it still hasn't been proven whether or not that was Connor Stallions on the sideline at the Central Michigan game. And I'm like, when you're still going down with that ship right there, where we haven't heard 100% that was Connor Stallions yet. That's when you've officially reached desperation mode there for Michigan fans. But yeah, no, I think we're probably closer to the notice of allegations than far. I think we're definitely over the 50% mark, but timing when this stuff's going to come out, I really do expect them to at least give some sort of notice to Michigan, August, September timeline. But look, the longer it goes, if there was nothing, they would have wrapped up a long time ago. The fact that they're continuing to dig, I keep hearing that they're uncovering more, and I keep hearing that they're expanding the scope of the relationship. And if you go read the Tony Petit letter, or you go read somebody had posted the email that had been forwarded from the Big Ten to the NCAA, or to Michigan, when they had basically given notice that they felt that there was a violation of the sportsmanship policy. And man, that laid out all the offenses that Michigan would. The fact that this was a multi-year sophisticated scheme, and that during the 2023 season, that Connor Stallions, this non-football full-time staffer, was in close proximity to the Michigan coaches during the game. So it's like, man, it's all laid out there. It's all going to come in, and I cannot wait to read that. That is going to be one of the great reads of all time. When you get the book, it's like getting the new Game of Thrones book, or the new some new Lord of the Rings thing or something. I'm going to sit down and read the NCAA notice of allegations to Michigan, cover to cover, over and over again, because what a great story this is going to be. I can't wait to see it, and I think it's coming pretty soon. So Michigan fans, enjoy your last few days before the sword drops, because I think it's coming. I think it's coming. And you're not going to enjoy it.
Totally agree. I threw the new NCAA game on the screen real quick because this is coming out Monday. I'm very excited. You see JJ Smith in the slot there, Ennis. You see our boy Trey. You see Donnie, Will Howard. You see the all red uniforms, which look amazing. So I'm super excited about that. In my opinion, the Jim Tressel article was one of the dumbest things I've ever read in my life. And again, it's the deal where when they're dishonest. Again, the media has never been more dishonest in our lifetimes than it is right now. And I'm talking about like the Ohio State beat. I'm talking the national media across the world. I mean, it is so dishonest. It's unbelievable. But Sports Illustrated runs this thing. They say Jim Tressel rigs a ref. Well, I'll give you guys a hint. In the history of football camps, sports camps, you look at who wins the MVP award and the Gatorade award and the raffle for the Super Nintendo or whatever it is. It's always the good players. It's always the kids that you want to recruit, unless a donor's kid is there. If a donor's kid is there and he's given millions of dollars, then his kid is probably going to get an award too. Because again, when the kid shows up and he's like, "Oh, I got this." Like I had the guy that founded Piata, which is one of my favorite restaurants. It opened in 2011. It's got like 300 locations now. His son was at a camp the one day, and I knew him because I loved Piata. I used to eat it every day when I was working as a GA, and I gave his kid one of the MVP awards. And he wasn't even in my group. He wasn't even an offensive lineman, but I made sure to give him one of the little Gatorade plaques, and we had like 100 of them. So it's not like you can run out of them. So we give like 4 or 5 away to each group, and it's always to the best players. And the same with the raffles. Like every raffle that you do at a camp is like you want the best player to feel good. And man, I had such a great time at Ohio State, and I won the Super Nintendo or the thing of Gatorade or whatever dumb thing you raffle off. So yes, they're all rigged. It's not a Jim Tressel thing, morons. Yeah, but that was like the big gotcha. That, and there were a bunch of players that were playing PlayStation and getting free tattoos and eating like the guys like feed them fried chicken. They're smoking weed and playing Xbox. And I'm like, great. So they're basically college kids. Congratulations. Like you literally wrote that in an article as a big gotcha to Jim Tressel. And again, when people are stupid, they eat that up and they're like, oh my God, what a devious, evil, stupid man. Like, and I'm just like, oh my God. Like, and I'll never forget Joe Shad posting up outside of our training table, like ESPN had. And that's why like I'll forever hate ESPN. Like if I was the AD, I wouldn't let ESPN on campus. I'd say you guys are never allowed back on here again for that reporting and what you guys did during that time, because it was obscene. And ESPN actively undermines Ohio State because they're in bed with the SEC. They want Ohio State to lose every game because they want we're with Fox. I mean, you guys got brains. I mean, ESPN is in bed with the SEC. Fox is in bed with the Big Ten. That isn't some sort of breaking news, but ESPN actively does everything they can to hurt Ohio State. So I wouldn't let them anywhere near where we're at. But again, that's just me. Maybe I'm vindictive, but I know I'm right. Nevada, any thoughts on that? Because again, rigging the raffle was pretty bad by Jim Tressel, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it was definitely. I mean, that was such a hit job, and I can't. Who wrote that? Or do you remember who wrote that?
George Dorman. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh yeah. That was the big one. He's gone on to journalistic stardom. I take it. What's he reporting?
I haven't heard from him since. Like, I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
neither have I. That's what I was wondering. I was wondering, is he still even writing?
I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen him, heard from him. Like, that was his 5 minutes of fame. I mean, I'm just gonna, dig this thing up, and it's just like, whew. Integrity. They went through, of course, a stupid. Sports Illustrated is out of business, so they've got to put these giant pop-up ads on their stupid site. Of course. Hang on. Closing. All right. Autographs. I'm trying to find, like, what were the high notes from this thing? Because you got to remember, like, I was in the building when this was coming. I was getting text messages all the time that this was coming. It was just like, it was just so bad. It was so impossibly bad. And this came, like, right at Memorial Day. I talked about, the disgrace, and guys came from broken homes, and like it went through all this stuff at Youngstown State, which, Mickey Monis and all this other stuff. It just was, it was bad. It was impossibly bad. The Ray Isaac stuff. So they're bringing up stuff from 20 years ago. Nobody cares about. Yeah, it was bad. I mean, yeah, Mark Titus, who's a douchebag, he said, posted on his blog that it was common knowledge among students that football players were driving cars too pricey for their means. You'd have to be blind not to notice it. I'm like, what a toll. Then Ray Small comes out and says, confirmed last week the Lantern, the Ohio State newspaper, that he got a deal on a car from a Columbus dealer, but he did not provide the terms. I'm just like, oh my God. Like, these guys, I'm like, why would you?
No, it's saying, now Titus saying that people they love Titus, and I always thought that was like such a betrayal. I always thought that was like, I've never liked Titus ever since that, when he did that, because I'm just like, what? I mean, you talk about guys like hurting the program. How's that helpful? How's that helpful for him to say something like that? And he's gonna be like, I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's I love this. They get the anonymous sources. My favorite. In the morning, Jim Tressel would read the Bible with another coach. In the afternoon, he would go out and cheat kids who probably saved up money from mowing lawns to buy those raffle tickets. That's Jim Tressel. Like, what idiot says that? Like, are you serious? Again, this is like the whole the raffle thing. One of Jim Tressel's duties was to organize and run the Buckeye summer camp. Most of the young players who attended would never play college football, but a few were top prospects whom Ohio State was recruiting. At the end of the camp, attendees bought raffle tickets, bought tickets to a raffle with prizes such as cleats and a jersey. According to his fellow assistant, Tressel rigged the raffle so that the elite prospects won, a potential violation of NCAA rules. Like, says the former colleague who asked not to be identified because he still has ties to the Ohio State community. In the morning, he would read the Bible with another coach. Then in the afternoon, he would go out and cheat kids who probably saved money from mowing lawns to buy those raffle tickets. That's for sure. I mean, like, you want to talk about a douchebag? Like, really? Like, yeah, of course the best players are going to win. They're going to win they're going to win the raffle, you idiot. I mean, God bless. I mean, people are just they're so stupid. And then there's the whole, Dudley's tattoos and body piercing. I mean, these guys get these. Most of these guys had these terrible tattoos. T.J. Downing, Luis Irizarry, Chris Vance, and just like really, really bad. I mean, most of these tattoos look like trash, anyways. So obviously, I don't know. You give me a jersey, and I'll give you a tattoo sleeve that looks like garbage. I mean, these guys aren't cartoon or any of the big time guys. So, I mean, he traded tattoo work for a magazine with Jim Tressel's autograph. Like, these guys are just such losers, and these guys are, I don't even want to get into this anymore. But yeah, Jim Tressel, what a heinous, terrible individual, cheating kids out of their lawn mowing, their lawnmower shavings to rig a raffle. I'm just like,
yeah, that's awesome.
Well, it's just, I don't know, man. Like, I mean, Jim Tressel's one of the greatest human beings who's ever walked this planet. And anybody that's ever met him and spent more than 10 minutes with him will say exactly the same thing. One of the greatest, most thoughtful, smartest, and a damn good football coach. A guy that took us from, whatever we were at the end of the Cooper era. Then, you got to remember, his first year, they went 7-5. So they weren't exactly lighting the world on fire. But then he wins that 14-0, beats the Hurricanes, basically wins our first championship in the state of Ohio in 30-ish years. So, again, I remember when I was working on the staff and this article came out, because, this article came out after we fired Jim Tressel. Like, we fired him that morning because they were scared of this article because, again, Ohio State was, until about, 2 weeks ago, ran by a bunch of, and again, the people thought were complete cowards. They wouldn't stand by the guy. And they're just like, oh my God, heaven forbid we have the national media say that we paid for tattoos with a jersey or whatever dumb stuff it was. Again, it's just like the stuff with Fitzgerald in Northwestern. Like, if there's anything that goes wrong, man, they will flush you down the toilet so quick and forget about you. And it's hilarious. But I remember this thing came out and I was like, that's what our board of trustees was scared of. That he rigged a raffle, and we had guys that were eating fried chicken and playing video games and smoking pot and getting tattoos done. Like, that's what we had to gas our coach for, but it is what it is. I know that we went off on the rails a little bit tonight, but I like I said, nothing beat living that in real time in the Woody Hayes. And I was like, and again, as soon as I saw how they did Jim Tressel, I'm like, Jim Tressel is the greatest human being I've ever been around. And he's probably the greatest person that's ever been in the coaching profession. And they did him like that. Like, how are they going to do an actual bad person? Like, I mean, you saw they did Jim Tressel, but again, it is preordained. If you coach at Ohio State, you are going to get fired. That is like in the blood, because they fired Woody Hayes, they fired John Cooper, Earl Bruce, Tress, Urban. So it's kind of written in the stars at that point. Yeah. Anything else to add to that, Nevada? Because again, you're right in the middle of all this when this was going on. This was peak message board dumb when this was going on, because it is. And of course, the guy that they interviewed, who was like the lead source, this Rife or this Halco guy, was guilty of money laundering, was selling 100 kilos or more of marijuana, was facing 60 years in prison, $2.5 million fine. So, I mean, that was their source, like one of the worst human beings in the world. But he's their lead source. Like, okay, let's just write all this down and go with it. This will be nice and juicy because we said all this dumb stuff. Any other thoughts of that, Nevada? Because that was a very interesting trip down memory lane. Because I forgot how stupid and how petty it was. And again, like, they talk about like the Ohio State Brotherhood. I mean, are the coaches in the Brotherhood too? Because some coach at Ohio State said, "Oh, Jim Tressel rigged a raffle so that the lot."
But I've got a completely different take on that. I don't believe that anybody said that at all. I think the guy just made it up. And because I mean, he's got a story to write for Sports Illustrated. He needs some sort of thing. So he just, he quotes something that's impossible to check, impossible to verify. He, throws that out there. And, that's the state of journalism and, back then. And I think it's been kind of a slow descent, since then. And I think, I think Tressel really, look, you got to, Jim did some dumb things, like him answering that email on the Ohio State thing was dumb, but even smart people could do dumb things from time to time, and that ultimately was his undoing. Was that that discovery right there. But now when you look back on it in the light of what's going on with NIL and things like that, it does look kind of silly and kind of count. But it was the rule. It was the rules at the time, and I have no problem with it. That's the rules are there. That's why this whole thing about like Reggie Bush getting his Heisman back and everything like that. I was like, dude, you broke the rules at the time. Like those were the rules. You knew it. We may and that's why you can never judge things through the lens of how things are. It's kind of when I don't want to get too deep in this thing, but it's like when you try to judge people how they acted like 200 years ago by using today's norms, and you're like, you can't do that because times are completely different, man. And no one back then had the foresight to be going, well, this is probably 200 years from now, this is going to look really bad, and let's do it this way or let's do that. Tressel knew the rules. He broke it. He paid a big price for it. But that article was garbage. But that was just, every day. The Dispatch was one of the worst offenders. And you would have thought that the hometown newspaper would be, they were so bad on that car stuff where they had to come back and retract it. And every day I was embarrassed that the Dispatch was pumping that stuff out, because you would think more from your hometown newspaper than to pass out misinformation, disinformation, and just bad information.
Yeah, it was terrible. This was great. This is what I remember. It's like, of course, they have an anonymous source who worked at the tattoo place. It was a cool place to hang out. Everybody could just relax and have a good time. The players were here too. Eddie would tell people, go get them some chicken. Can you imagine? Like, I got to go buy chicken for these dumb players just sitting around playing Xbox all night. Run to the store and get them something to drink. And this is the players that were named. Obviously, there's the Tattoo Six, including Jordan Whiting, which I completely forgot about because I think Urban kicked him off the team. This says he witnessed other players swap memorabilia or give autographs for tattoos or money. Those players were C.J. Barnett, Dorian Bell, Jamal Berry, Bo DeLand, Zach Domicone, Storm Klein, Etienne Sabino, Johnny Simon, and Nathan Williams. Like, I can't imagine Johnny Simon trading his stuff for a tattoo, but what do I know? But it's just, they named like 20 kids. And of course, like, Ohio State's not going to make them available. But yeah, it was pretty amazing. But I was always just like, I am not trying to be around these people. I don't know these people. Like, you can ask me, like, you didn't see me out. I mean, I'd go out a little bit. I'd go out on the town a little bit, but I ain't going to a tattoo shop with some pothead playing Xbox. Like, give me a break, douchebags. All right, Sean Rollins, thank you for the 5. Hope you're good, brother. Hope Wester's treating you great. Thank you for being an Ultra member as well. Back in the 6th grade, I sold jokes on a piece of paper for $5 a piece. Tattoo Gate is in the same category. That's a good hustle. $5? Is this pre-internet? For a joke? $5? That's a lot of money.
Really good. Those wasn't really good jokes, man.
Well, I mean, $5. That's a lot of money for a joke. I mean, like, what do you have to keep writing them and make them new? I would love to hear more about this, because this is, and people bought them. How many of those did you sell? Like $5. I mean, unless it's food, I ain't paying $5 for anything. I don't think. But wow, Tattoo Kid is in the same category. I mean, that's a hustle. I've never heard of that one. I've heard of selling like lemonade and stuff, or shoveling a dry. Yeah, it's like I don't know. Bravo. I've never heard of that. You heard of that, Nevada?
No, I mean, I thought you charging your neighbors to blow the snow off their thing with your X2000 snowblower or something like that was bad. But it's like, hey, selling jokes. That's like, man, that's next level goodness right there.
I don't charge. For one, I don't even do it. I don't even offer. I just clear my own driveway. I'm not offering to go do it and burn my gas up. Like, are you crazy? When it's cold out, I go snow blow mine, and then I come back inside. Like, I'm not trying to get frostbite to make $20. Like, I'm good. Again, if kids want to go out there and shovel it, they can do it.
Little Kirk out there operating the snowblower.
No. I go do it. It takes me from it taking 35 minutes to shovel it to 10 minutes to go drive the thing up and down, shoot the snow a mile up in the air. I mean, it's the greatest thing I've ever bought, because I don't have to. It takes 5 minutes. I'm not gonna die of a heart attack. Kirk, you'll be calling into the show saying, Kirk, where are you? Where are you? I'm laying there dead with a shovel in my hand. I had a heart attack in the middle of the driveway. I'm like, Kirk, we have to podcast. Where are you? Where's my partner?
No, Kirk, did you file the key man? Do we have the key man?
Oh God!
I know you're gonna have Kim out there operating the snow blower out there.
She doesn't even know how to turn it on. I do it. I mean, the hardest part is I got to get it serviced every year, and it weighs like 1,000 pounds. So I have to like blow my back out lifting it up and putting it in my truck to take it to get it serviced every year. But it is something that is a great investment when you live in freezing Ohio. Oh my God, this is so funny, man. These guys are. Yeah, I'm still glossing over this thing, but this thing was something else. But anyways, I think we could wrap this thing up. Nevada, nice little Friday night show. Talked a little bit about adjunct coaches. Any final thoughts? We'll wrap the show
up. If you haven't, we've talked about Dagestan Poppy. Dagestan Poppy hit another monster bet today. I literally think on his track.
What card was today?
It was a PFL card over in like Riyadh, like Saudi Arabia or something like that. But he had like a big. I mean, basically, it's like we maxed out every book that we had. We maxed out on this one, and at minus 260. This guy just smoked this guy. But if you're not following Dagestan Poppy, yeah, you're missing one of the epic heaters of all time. Like I said, I literally think he's 17 of 18 on his key spots, and this is all tracked. So you can go to Dagestan Poppy on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. He's got a link to all of his tracked action. It's free. You don't have to pay anything. He posts his card before the thing. If you want it prior to that, then I think it's like $5 or so. I mean, it's not a lot of money. And I'm going to give you a little hint. If you send him a direct message and say, "Hey, I'm from Buckeye Scoop. Do you have any pics for me?" He'll probably give you the pics for free in advance. So I'm just going to give you a little hint. He'll take care of you if you want to do that. And if you like money, he's just been killing it right now betting MMA. And another, not a big card, but a card tomorrow. Got one play tomorrow night in UFC Denver. But Dagestan Poppy, great follow. Hit him up with a DM if you want to not pay anything. You want to get the thing free and get it early. He'll probably hook you up.
Super chat, Blue Wolverine. Thanks for the deuce. Kirk, am I taking the bet with Yoder? I have no idea what you're talking about. He's got my number. I love Yoder. Yoder is one of my favorite people in the world. So tell him to hit me up. I don't know what the bet is, but we do a lot of action. And I know one guy who's a hog, because I know the one thing that Yoder is not going to bet is the Ohio State Michigan game, because I've got a guy named Nevadabuck who is his huckleberry if he wants to take that action, because we like free money. So there's nothing in the world like, well, if you want straight up Ohio State Michigan, let's ride. I don't think Yoder's got the balls to do that. Everybody likes to talk about stuff until it's time to write the check or put money in escrow for a bet, right, Nevada?
Yep, a lot of talk, no walk.
You got some guys that owe you money still.
I know. Well, don't remind me.
There's nothing worse. All right. Any final thoughts on that? I'll wrap the show.
No, Dagestan Poppy found big card UFC tomorrow, and thank you guys so much for being here. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys each and every night. We love kicking it with you guys. Hope you guys have a great Friday night. Thank you guys for joining us. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like. Click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. We will be going hard all weekend. We're going to get you some good content tomorrow and Sunday. So we're looking forward to seeing you guys each and every night. As always, if you guys enjoy this content, leave us a review. That's something we haven't been doing enough of, especially on the audio formats. If you guys could subscribe to our Apple podcast feed, that'd be huge. Spotify, they're both free. Leaving a review takes 5 seconds to leave a 5-star review. Again, we appreciate all that you guys do each and every night. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. This was a fun one, a little bit trip down memory lane before the real football starts. Big Ten Media Days are coming up, so we'll have full coverage of that as always. And we appreciate you guys. So thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. And thank you, Scoop family. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a great night. Go Bucks.